Hi, this is Representative Patrick Sheehan with your weekly update. I wanted to talk with you first about the K-12 budget. This is probably the biggest news that we had. One of the things that I set out to do in the campaign was trying to fund education first as a first priority, and believe it or not, we got that done last week. We funded the K-12 budget before anything else in the state budget. We funded it at a rate of $100 million more than what the governor had allocated for it, so I consider that a big success. Now, a lot of folks didn't like the fact that we passed it because there's always room for more money in education, of course, but what this did was it provided a baseline funding of education first, so it's going to be protected. If the revenue forecast comes out lower than what it might be expected in May, we're still going to have this amount of money set aside for education. We can always put more money into it, but I'm very pleased that we funded education first. If you followed some of the news stories, you may have seen a lot of representatives on the floor claiming that it's not enough and that we shouldn't have passed the thing. That really wasn't very genuine. If you had the folks that voted no against it knew that it was going to pass. We all knew that it was a good bill. We knew that it needed to pass. What you saw was a lot of theatrics. So I refused to play the game. I voted yes because it's important to fund education first. I promised to do it, and we did it. I've gotten a lot of calls about House Bill 2337. This is the cougar hound hunting bill that came to the floor earlier this week. Now, this allows people to hunt cougars with a pack of dogs, and this is in order to track down a cougar and to tree the cougar. Now, this is not a sport hunting measure. This is for actually tracking down and killing a dangerous predator after it has stalked and killed livestock, family pets. This is something that's been a big problem in rural Oregon, and it's actually coming into suburban Oregon as well. So I got mostly an avalanche of emails in support of the bill. I had a few people that wrote in opposing it, and most of them were coming from the city, and so I just wanted to explain why I voted the way I did. I voted for this bill to allow hound hunting of cougars because it has become a dangerous problem. I had a good friend in Tacoma, actually, a couple of years ago, who almost lost her puppy just jogging on a trail, and the puppy got off the trail and was attacked by a cougar. And this is a suburban area, and I'm hearing more and more stories like this. There was one in Gresham really recently where there was a cougar sighting at a Gresham City Park. This is coming into the city. The cougar population has doubled since we banned hound hunting in the mid-90s, and so it's time to bring this back as an effective wildlife control measure. There have been a number of other things that have been tried. Nothing has worked. There's no non-lethal measure that has worked, and having individual hunters go out and track or trap the animals just doesn't work because the animals are just too savvy. So hound hunting is really the only way to manage the problem and to get the population back down to a level where we can all live in harmony. Speaking about wildlife issues, we've also voted on a gray wolf issue today having to do with predators. Now, this was House Bill number 3562, and we voted today in the House to allow you to kill a gray wolf as long as it was threatening your life. Now, this is along the same lines as the cougar bill, where you get these animals that are coming closer and closer into the suburban areas and coming closer into livestock and people. Of course, when it's threatening a person, that's when it gets to the point that we really have to do something about it right now. Now, the gray wolf was taken off the endangered species list last week, which was long after this bill was authored, but it puts gray wolves in the same category as cougars and bears, other dangerous predator animals, so it allows someone to use deadly force against this animal if it's threatening their life. So hopefully that never happens, but now the statute's in place, so if it does, the person will be okay. And a quick update on an ongoing issue. The Funeral Civility Act finally made its way out of committee last week. This is something we've been working on for a long, long time. We have a new way of addressing the Funeral Civility Act. There were a couple of Democrats who were not on board with the bill and wanted to offer their own suggestions to try to make it a little bit more friendly to a constitutional challenge. And so we've got a new method of dealing with it. Right now, the new method is to strengthen some of the existing laws having to do with disorderly behavior if it's within 1,000 feet of a funeral, and this includes fighting, screaming, yelling, throwing things that aren't typically done at funeral protests, but that's part of the bill. The other part of the bill is an ability for the funeral director or the family to pull a permit from their city or from their county that says that they're going to have a funeral where they want a buffer zone. Buffer zone for anything. In this case, it would be protests. And so it would say that 400 feet from the edge of the cemetery or memorial hall or church, that public land that's out there would not be available for someone who's not an invited guest to stand or loiter. So, and that would include people that are doing so with pickets or signs or hateful speech. So it basically gives them an ability to invite guests only into those areas. And so I'm not sure that it's much better than what we had before, but it got everybody able to get it out of committee, which is what I really wanted to get done. So now it's going to go to the Senate and hopefully to the governor's desk to be signed into law, and we will join 44 other states in having a Funeral Civility Act finally. Lastly, I wanted to talk about two bills that were killed this week, and this is sort of an unfortunate thing. At the end of the House session, we get bills that just don't make it out of committee, and we call those bills that were killed. Two of them that were good bills that were killed that I'm sad to have seen gone. One of them was mine. It was a reserve accounts bill. This created a system where our own government had to follow the same rules that we impose on condominium complexes and on homeowners associations, and having to save money out of their reserve accounts in order to pay for capital improvements such as roofs, asphalt, and things that are periodic expenses that don't come up every month. So I'm excited that the committee heard it and that they were interested in carrying it over and perhaps working on it during the interim session and bringing it back in a way that we're able to make this thing work next time. So I am excited that there's a little bit of movement there, so hopefully we'll be able to get something done. The other one that I'm really sad to see didn't make it was the Cultural Trust Bill 3387. Oregon has a cultural trust, which is where you give money for the cultural trust, and it goes toward museums and things like that. In 2009, the state legislature swept that account, meaning they took money out of it where people in good faith gave money to this account for this purpose, and the government came in and took it away and put it towards something else. Now, a trust account is an important thing, and the name cultural trust really implies that it is a trust account when, in fact, it really wasn't. This law would have actually made that a trust account. Now, it didn't get the chair's support, so the chair of the committee did not put it to what's called a work session, which is where we vote on things. So unfortunately, the cultural trust does not get the protection of an actual trust. Hoping that you'll still give money to the Cultural Trust. It's still a great cause. I'm going to be a firm vote against sweeping anything from the Cultural Trust on the floor, but unfortunately that's as far as I can take it. The bill itself is dead. So that is your weekly legislative update. I'm Representative Patrick Sheehan. You can reach me at patrick@patricksheehan.org or at 503-986-1451 at the Capitol. I'd love to hear from you. If you have any questions, feel free to email me or find me on Facebook. I'd love to answer your question here or personally, so look forward to talking with you soon. Thanks.